Hi, this is B from Sorcery Soap and Hocus Pocus Crafts, and I'm sitting in the midst of a little chaos. I'm making some soaps. Maybe I'll put a picture in so you can see what I'm up to. I want to talk to you about the new moon. So we're in new moon. Started yesterday for those people in the northern hemisphere because obviously you can't see the moon when you're opposite. Whether it be obvious or not, I don't know anymore. I don't know if you're like me, feel a lot of shifts going on, and I feel like the realm is splitting. I feel like ideas are splitting, and the question of truth is really on the table. And what is true, and who do we trust, and who can we trust to tell us true things? And the new moon is an opportunity to burn it all down. Well, not literally, we don't ever want to do that, but in ourselves, spiritually speaking, we want to get rid of the old, cherry pick the things that work, and keep those things and move forward. And I don't know, well, I'll just talk to you as honestly as I can talk to you because it's all very tricky, all of it. And we get to pick through things at any given opportunity and figure out what works. So I don't believe in coincidence, and I don't think every single thing is orchestrated. I don't live in those two extremes. I'm learning to do, what I'm in process of doing, is trusting my sense of truth and not building it on fact, because those facts can have faulty foundations. There was a time in my life that I thought certain people in my world were honest and true and good, and come to find out they were the opposite of that. And you couldn't really convince me at the other end of that until I saw it. Now I'm questioning everything and everything and doing the best that I can to navigate all this. So, in the midst of all this sort of new moon activity, which is, oh, by the way, so if you have clouds or something, so I write it down in my calendar. Let's just be pragmatic for a second. I write it down in my calendar, and I did it for the entire year this year. And I'm studying new things that I hadn't studied in the past. Although I sort of cycled over and over again the Fibonacci, circle or spiral, and I've studied, tarot and astrology and taken classes and studied with people, and my friends are in those fields and things like that. So I've been influenced by that quite a bit, and I kept trying to ground it in fact-based reality, and then I just gave up, and I decided that I'm going to move into the things that I'm attracted to because I know what I'm attracted to. It's sort of like somebody flirts with you. My best friend and I call it this. I think she started it. I think she learned it somewhere. And she says it's a flirt. It's not somebody tapping you on the shoulder and saying, "Hey, would you like to go out?" No, there's flirts, right? And that interpretation energy is only for you to understand from that other person. So somebody else could observe it and not see sort of the eye movements or the smells that are coming, or the sensation that you get when somebody flirts with you. So we call it these spiritual awarenesses, we call them flirts. And the flirt for me is an indication of inspiration or creativity or interest or something like that. So things can flirt with me. I could be aware of them and go, yeah, not interested. And then there's other things that flirt with me, and I go, oh, yeah, that's interesting. I just saw a sparkle out of the corner of my eye. That's very interesting. Going back to doing my new moon thing. So I went through and did all the moons. So if I did it because I had this awareness that some days the clouds are covering the moon, and I can't just walk outside and look. And I want to know. I want to know like what's happening without people telling me. I want to be responsible and understand things. So, and then how I feel, what my day is like, what dreams I had, all that stuff. So there's new moon. That means there'll be no moon in the sky if you're in the northern hemisphere. which I've always found baffling because I always felt like folklore and everything and all the tales are always about the full moon. And I'm like, I don't understand why one's more or less important. And what I'm starting to realize is this is just the void. This is the opportunity to the nothingness before the thing. And you have to have the nothingness before the thing. So there's immutable laws in the universe that govern us, sort of like trying to break gravity. I mean, that's just one. When you start thinking about that, that is a very equitable thing. We're all governed by certain things. People want to go off and say, oh, karma always gave. That's not true. I've seen really bad people do really bad things and never get caught. So I don't believe that. And you can tell me all you want. If I can't observe it, then I'm not going to believe it anymore in some capacity. And then it's all very loose right now. It's all very loose. Anyway, the flirt or the slight indication, the attempt at maybe another unseen realm, my connection to that unseen realm, my ancestor, I don't know. My creativity coming to me that I'd asked for 6 months ago, my desire for inspiration to be consumed by an idea and impassioned by that idea for a while, be it 10 years like Sokdo or however, whatever, or what it takes to write a book, that is a fire that burns and then I have to follow. That's a pretty strong flirt and dedication. You have to have dedication on the other side because you can't just ride inspiration. Inspiration burns very quickly, in my opinion. But all those little flirt things are cues, and it doesn't come bragging, in my opinion. It doesn't come loud and obnoxiously insertion points to you. It doesn't come like that. There's these little tiny things that I am either attracted to or not attracted to. And me, I'm the only one that can say whether I'm attracted to it or not, genuinely and sincerely. Like if you're flirting with another person, I'm attracted. You might even just be attracted to the flirt itself, but not the person. That happens with inspiration too, I think. And then I pull on the thread of that if I'm attracted to it, right? And if I'm sensitive enough, if my little spiritual feelers are out for the day, I'm sensitive enough to it that I'll pull on that spiritual thread or that unseen thread. I'm doing my best, okay? So I don't really know. Anyway, I'm doing my best and I pull on it and I go, oh, that's interesting. And I'll give you an example. So I started thinking about a type of a soap. And this isn't just in soap, this is in everything. But I started thinking about a type of a soap and I was like, yeah, I don't really want to do that. I don't want to do that. So I'm just like sort of throwing those to the side and pushing, nop. And then I started thinking about this other type of soap and I wanted to do something so much because I hadn't done anything in soap in a while that I put a lot of pressure on myself instead of just letting it. So I just let it bubble in my sort of imagination cauldron. I just let it bubble there. And then I left some things on my screen that I was researching because I like to look at other people's examples of how to make a subject, not to copy them, but just how to make that. And so I was looking at those and, oh, that's a good idea. I like that. I can cherry pick that. I don't like that. Sort of like this new moon thing where we could go through, it's all whatever. I'm going to just, and I can pick out and I'm going to save that. That's not going in the garage. That's going in the trash. It was sort of like my own self. And so then once I started it, I realized all that's been accumulating and bubbling in me. And I'd already eliminated all these other things and I made it grow. I made it bigger than it was. And then it manifested. I manifested it. I mean, to me, that's one small, tiny example of making magic in your life where no one else could see my soaps. No one else could see the idea. And I did all the steps necessary to bring it into fruition so you could see it. And the interesting thing about that is like I've been performing real magic in front of people. And this isn't to diminish anybody. Lots of people do it. We never talk about it. We never point it out. I've been performing real magic in front of people for years, showing people how to do things and how to bring that idea in and talking about it. And that is the core of my books. That is the actual core. That is the inspired core of it. And, you know, I meditated and I prayed and I had lots of conversations with myself and I trusted. And, you know, when I was writing those books, and that is the the germ or the genesis of those, because I felt like I can tell you how to make soap dough and make soaps and do all these things, and I can give you the step by step and tell you very boring, and I can still do that. So where does it start? What's the real core of that? And the core of it is you have to be inspired. You have to be willing to follow some of those flirts and some of that inspiration and pull those threads out for yourself, because you're going to get bored copying me at a certain point and you're going to want to know how to get to that other place. And to me, that is the most important part of any artist's work, is how to get inspired and stay inspired. And that was the very first book I wrote, and that's exactly why, and in the core truth of my life, how do I stay that way? How do I think it's just like anything. It has its cycles. It comes and goes, just like the moon. And there are times where it is fertile and other times where it's fallow. And trusting that it is the song that my soul sings, and trusting that it's the way I see the world. And it's because I look for flirts, I look for sparkles, I look for things that tickle my interest. I look for the subtle and the small and the little shadow, or the focus on one little place in the world that no one else saw, or one little idea that nobody else is looking at. And then I figure out whether I'm interested in it or not. And then I do all my weaving and spell work and magic and all this to pull it to the foreground so that I could share it, because sharing it's fun too. And it's okay to create in a vacuum. I think that's perfectly acceptable. And it's okay to create and show it in a public forum. I think that's perfectly acceptable, and everything in between. So now's the time, I think, and this is what I'm going to use the new moon for, is to just let things be for a second and then throw it all out and just figure out, how do I want to be today? And then what do I want to keep for tomorrow? And it's sort of like moving house a bit. So I'm okay with that. And I hope you are too. And I hope that you found something interesting in this video, and thank you all for your wonderful comments. That's pretty awesome. I'm really enjoying the exchange. And I'm taking this as a bit of a sacred oath, so that, you know, I get excited and I want to talk to y'all and I want to communicate and interact. And I also don't want to waste your time. I want to make sure that you understand that this isn't flippant to me, and that I'm not being flippant, and that I'm choosing very carefully what to say to you, and when I feel guided to say something to you, and then generate that true and genuine and sincere response that we can engage in and feel connected and feel like there's other people that are out there that get it and get how crazy everything is right now, that aren't insane, and that don't have an agenda. My only agenda is, if I did have an agenda, my only agenda would be to help you find inspiration to get through. That's it. Like, wow, yeah, there's a lot of truth there, because it made my stomach kind of tickly and excited and serious. And yeah, because I feel like there's some days I look around and I go, I just want to listen to somebody talk about some things that are real and some possibilities, and help me see the world a little bit differently, because I'm struggling today. And where do I go for that? You know, where do I go? Do I go to some agenda driven building, or do I go to some agenda driven agency, or, you know, what do I do? Because I don't even trust their motives anymore. And, you know, in order to keep myself in the way I want to keep myself, this is not monetized. I don't take sponsorship or any of that stuff. So I don't even trust some of that stuff because we're all influenced by things. And yes, I want to always be productive and prosperous and all those things. And I also trust my guidance, and that this is very important that I do some of this stuff and say some of these things so that maybe you don't feel so freaked out and alone. And that, you know, I've really done my best not to talk about the muggle world at all for the normies, I should say. And that is even not accurate. Muggles probably a little bit more accurate. The non-magical people that, what I figured out in the last couple of days, and I found this interesting to myself, is that people, I'm not going to use that. I'm sorry. Beings that want to instill fear can't do it on their own. They need us. And even the people that claim to be righteous, or the beings that claim to be righteous, ride those coattails of fear by pointing out other fears. And I'm not here to do that. Fear is in your mind. And I've had this conversation, and we've talked about this a couple times. Fear's in your mind. Danger is real. There's things that are dangerous. Don't stick your finger in an open saw. That's dangerous. You're going to lose your finger. And then you're going to be stuck with that, with no finger. Oh, that's terrifying. I actually worked in a factory once where I had to I cut pipe, and I had to pull the saw down. Or what did I do? No, I didn't pull the saw down. I pushed it through. It was years and years ago, by the way. I had to push it through. I don't remember how it worked now, but there was no guards on it. I had to be really careful. Can't remember how that worked, but the guy that taught me how to use the saw had lost his finger, so I knew to be careful. And he goes, "Oh, it was worth $4,000." I was like, "Oh my, oh sorry, I just hit the mic. That's crazy that you know how much your digit was worth." Anyway, so yeah, I don't know. I don't believe it. And I'm just going to try it on. I mean, I've been living that way most of my life. Fear. What is my fear? Oh, face your fears and do it anyway. I did that for a lot of years. I'm like, fear is just generated in my mind. I don't know that it's real. Maybe you could prove to me that it is real, because I believe in danger. I believe the concept of danger. Fear, I can't pinpoint the epicenter of that, or the genesis of it. I think it's in me and in every other person. And most people go, "Oh, that's scary. Come on into my scary world. Let's be scared together so then I don't feel afraid." I'm not even in that realm. I don't want to do that. What I want to do is go, "I'm inspired. Come on in over here. Let's be inspired together, because we're going to have to collect firewood at some point. Might as well be inspired. It's got to be done." And that's just a metaphor for chores, you know. Might as well be inspired. It's got to be done. You know, we're not multimillionaires. If you're a multimillionaire, I can guarantee you're not watching this channel. Well, maybe I can't guarantee that, but nonetheless, more than likely, I'm a worker bee. That's what I do. So, anyway, I am a worker bee right here. Look at that. Isn't that cool? A friend of mine sent me this. Anyway, I'm a worker bee, and I'm okay with that. I'm not a slave, but I am a worker bee. I'm a slave. I'm not a slave. I'm in a slave system. And I'd like that slave system to be obsolete. So we'll see. I'll probably edit that out, because it's terrifying to say certain truths. Anyway, so I hope, thanks for watching, and I hope this sparked something. I don't know. I'm not the authority. I'm just the authority barely in my own realm about my own person. Oh, and here's one more thing. One more thing I'll leave you with. You know if you're interested in something. And think on that for a minute. Because no one has to convince you. Which is crazy to think about, right? I know when I'm interested. So if I know when I'm truly interested in something, what else do I know that I can trust in myself? Because there's some things that are very fickle. It's like, sometimes I just think I'm hungry and I'm not really hungry. I'm just bored or I'm thirsty. So that gets tricky, especially interacting with the body. The body can be tricky because it can give you lots of feedback about things that aren't necessarily true. So I need to be more of an authority than my body. I need to say, and then the question goes to, what is the I? And if you ask me, what is the I? When I'm in the midst of inspiration, I can tell you exactly what it is. If you could feel what I feel. I don't know, I could make it into words. It's so silly. Anyway, so yeah, tell me, maybe that I'll leave you with that. Like, has anybody had to convince you you're interested, or do you really know when you're interested? And then what does that look like? Like, if you had to make it into a thing, what would it be like? What would it feel like? Your genuine interest in something, your curiosity. If you ask more questions, there's lots of ways to ponder that. So I have to walk to the grocery store here in a bit, and we're in the midst of, I don't know, they're calling it a blizzard. I don't know if it's a blizzard, but there's a lot of snow outside. And this is probably going to be the coldest day, couple days. And then we should start coming out of it pretty soon. We only have about 6 more weeks of winter here. So I'm enjoying it while we have it, because it gives me an opportunity to not feel like I have to be outside. You know, as soon as it's bright and sunshiny, I feel obligations to be outside. So anyway, tell me what you think of the term interest, and if you have any flirts in your life, and if flirts lead to inspiration, or if inspiration leads to flirts, or whatever. Let's have a conversation about it. All right, thanks for watching again, and try not to take me too serious. Try not to. All right, bye.